Well, hi guys. Coach Jerry here at the Protocol in Tucson, Arizona, and this is the joint mobility warm-up for the month of March. In March, we are going to be preparing for the StrongFirst Level 1 Kettlebell certification that's going to be taking place in here. That's actually going to be the second weekend in April, but all of our prep time is going to be mostly done in March. And we have, not only do we have several students that are going to be attending that certification, I will be helping out in the teaching of that cert, and we also are welcoming many folks from all over the country to join us here in Tucson. The weather is going to be beautiful. And one of the things that I decided to do for this mobility warm-up was to take you guys through the StrongFirst Mobility Complex. So this is the standard joint mobility warm-up that you guys will see in the morning as well as in the afternoon sessions. But also for the classes, it's just a good general warm-up that gets everything ready to go. So we are going to go ahead and get started here. I have everything up here on the board. We are going to begin with the neck. I recommend interlacing your fingers behind you. You can also hold a light kettlebell behind you. This will help keep you nice and straight. And we're going to start to work in the neck. We're going to begin by going up and down. Brett Jones has a drill that he calls the baby bird. This is really good for your jaw, works those the TMJ muscles there. When you tip your head back, it looks like this. It's a really nice stretch. So you can do a few reps, and then every few reps or so, give yourself a few of those baby birds. Next, we're going to turn the neck to the side. This is not about speed, this is about range of motion. Just enjoy a little neck mobility there. We're going to finish with some neck tilts. So tilting, you want to be careful not to engage your whole body. You want to stay as still as possible. It's like you're trying to get your ear over to your shoulder, back to neutral, and then do the other side. This part tends to get really, really tight on us. You can even use your fingers a little bit if you want to really feel what that's supposed to be working, but it's best to do this under your own muscular control. Next, we're going to be working in the fingers and the wrists. With this one, we're going to interlace our fingers, and we're going to draw a big circle with the wrists. And we'll just do a few repetitions here for the purpose of today's example, and then go back the other direction. You can get fancy with this. You can do figure eights as well. We're going to keep this one real simple today. Sometimes if your wrists are really, really stiff, you can also give yourself these little stretches here. I'm a huge fan of these. You can also work over, bending the other way. When you flip your hand down this way and grab a hold, you're trying to pull the pit of your elbow straight. You'll get that nice stretch. A lot of us spend a lot of time behind keyboards and phones and whatnot. These stretches for the wrists are really, really good before we start training. Next, we're going to get into the elbows. With here, we're just going to hold our arms up kind of shoulder height, and we're going to draw big circles. I'm pretty sure the camera is picking up my little poppy left elbow. I've had that for a very long time. It's a little genetic gift from my father. He doesn't watch these videos, so he'll never hear that. And let's go back and go the other direction here. I am switching, alternating directions each time, but how you do this is really up to you. You're also going to notice that with this month's warm-up, I don't have a particular number of repetitions. I would say the ones that don't feel like they don't feel like much, those are probably the ones that you don't need a whole lot of reps of. Some of these are going to be really nasty on you. You might be rolling in feeling really stiff, and you might want to give yourself some extra reps. This entire warm-up should take you somewhere in the neighborhood of probably about 10 to 15 minutes to do. So it is okay to take your time on some of the parts here that are a little rough on you. Once we're done with the elbow circles, now we're going to need to do our halo. Now with the halo, we like to use a kettlebell. If you don't have access to a kettlebell, you can just interlace your fingers just the same way you did the wrist drill. And the halo works like you're just moving around your head like so. Now I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate here with a kettlebell. With your kettlebell, you're just going to pull it up and catch it upside down and hold it by the horns. I like to stick my thumb and my first digit out to hold the ball of the bell, kind of help stabilize it. You want to tuck your elbows in and hold the bell fairly close to your chest. You want to also be careful not to go into extension when you're moving. So imagine contracting your glutes like you're pinching a coin, and we're going to draw up with the elbow, run the kettlebell around our head and do that halo. So we'll do a few repetitions here. Once you get to the number of reps that you want to do, we'll come back here to center, and now we're going to go the other way. You'll notice that every repetition that I do, I'm coming right back to that start position. I think sometimes when you see people kind of doing this, they tend to make an incomplete circle and they're not getting as much out of the drill as they should. I also see people kind of like getting too crazy with the bell. Don't do that. Keep it nice and tight to your body. You should feel a big opening through your shoulders when you do this. That is the halo. We're going to finish up in the shoulders by doing the Egyptian. We're going to have our hands out at shoulder height, and we're going to rotate the fingers. And imagine rotating through the shoulder here. We're moving in through that rotator cuff as much as we can, opposing that movement with our body. And then when you switch, do the other side. So there's a continuous rotation that's happening here. This should feel really, really good in that rotator cuff. That's the Egyptian. Next, we're going to move down to the hips. For hips, we're just going to do two different types of circles. So this first circle, we're just going to have our feet shoulder width apart, and we're going to draw a big circle with the hips. I've heard this one called scraping the barrel. It's like we're standing inside of a whiskey barrel, preferably something aged. I won't give brand names here because they don't endorse the protocol, but you're just tracing the inside rim of that barrel. And now we're going to reverse directions and go the other way. For some dumb reason, one circle is always a little more awkward to do than the other. We'll practice both here. Before we move on from the hips, now we're going to do a tighter circle, and this is using the pelvic tilt. So the finished product looks like this. You're drawing a circle. And the way I like to explain this to people is you want to imagine that my belt is a bucket of water filled to the brim, and I'm going to spill water out of the front of the bucket and out of the back of the bucket. So this is anterior-posterior pelvic tilt. Now, there's also a lateral that goes with this, and now we're going to spill water out of the sides. So I'm going to bend this knee, but keep the feet flat on the ground, and I'm just going to tilt side to side. When you push that off to the side, you're going to feel that little stretch there in the hip. When you combine the front and the back and the side to side, you can teach yourself how to do the circle. So we're going to go front, side, back, side, front. And once you put those together, you get the circle. And let's go back and do the other direction. If your hips run stiff and your back runs tight, unlocking your hips does wonders for your back. Now we're going to move down to the knees. So for the knee circles, we're going to keep a nice flat back, but we're going to hinge the hips and put our hands on top of our knees. You can have a slight bend in your knee. Now, your knee is a mobile joint. We're not actually doing knee mobilization. What we're actually doing is ankle mobility. So you want to resist the urge to let your feet like wiggle around. I think they refer to it as like getting out on the edges of your feet. You want to try not to do that. You're trying to mobilize in your ankles as much as possible. Some of you might notice that you're a little clicky and cracky here when you're doing the knee circles. As long as it's not accompanied by pain, just continue to work through it. Speaking of pain, joint mobility should not be a painful activity. Let's go ahead and reverse directions. On a scale of 1 to 10, none of these movements should be really anything past about a 4. If they are, shorten the range of motion and work inside your capacity to eventually be able to expand your capacity. After the knees, we're going to get down and we're going to work on our feet, toes, and ankles. To do this, we're going to get down on the ground and we're going to come into a figure 4 position. Now there's a variety of different ankle and foot drills here. The one that they do for the StrongFirst program is manual. So in other words, I'm just going to take my hand and I'm going to go into ankle, flexion and extension. So I'm just mobilizing through that ankle, trying to take that through as much range of motion as it can handle. I'm also going to do some big circles. And do some circles going the other direction. And then I'm also going to work in the toes. Now, you can work all of them at once. You can also work one of them at a time. I like to get all the clicks and cracks out here when I'm working on this drill. The really important one is the big toe. Having that really good big toe flexion is something that's really important, has huge performance benefits. Way beyond sport, even just like lunges, being able to get into the top of a push-up position. You want to have really good mobility through your toes and really good mobility for your ankles. Really helps the squat. I'm going to briefly do the same thing on the other side, just so I'm not walking in circles for the rest of the day. I'm trying to keep this video as short as possible, but I also want to make sure that we get all this mobility work done. So if you're following along, we're just going to go up and down with the ankles, do some circles in both directions, and then we're going to work on the toes a little bit, make sure we get that flexion and extension through the toes. I don't know if the camera picked up the clicks and cracks that I just got out of there, but those feel really good. So those are the ankle drills that we're going to be working on. Next, we're going to start to get into crocodile breathing and the down dog to up dog. Crocodile breathing is a diaphragmatic breathing drill that teaches you how to strengthen the muscles through your diaphragm. So what we're going to be doing is taking deep belly breaths. And I'm actually going to read to you guys exactly the key points that we're trying to do here. And so the key points are as follows. Avoid breathing into the chest first and raising up in the shoulders. So you're trying to keep that breath deep in the belly. Inhale and exhale through the nose at a natural pace, taking 80% or larger inhalations and long exhalations. You may exhale through the mouth, but nasal is preferred. Don't rush. There's a natural pause between the inhalation and exhalation cycles. The floor is going to provide automatic proprioceptive feedback as the abdomen pushes out against it. It should also be able to guide your breath into the obliques and into the back. It says here to perform 20 to 30 breaths at the beginning of the training session, but shoot for about 3 to 5 minutes of breath work at some later point. I'm only going to demonstrate a few reps. I hope the camera is able to pick this up. I'm going to come onto my stomach, make a little pillow with my hands, and I'm going to breathe in and out of my abdomen, and hopefully in the camera you will see my lower back rise and lower. Here we go. Inhale. Exhale. And you should feel your abs pushing down into the ground. From here, we're going to go into our down dog to up dog. So we're going to have our hands here right by our chest. We're going to look up and straighten our elbows as much as we can. I'm actually going to turn my toes over and come into a full up dog. So the glutes are tight to protect the back, and I'm just going to shift through the hips, left to right. It's like I'm trying to look over my left and my right shoulder. So we'll do a few side to side, and then exhale and push back into downward facing dog. When you're in down dog, we're going to stretch our calves and paddle through our feet. So I'm going to push one heel to the floor while bending the other knee, and then switch. So when I put them together, it looks like I'm walking in place. So we're going to inhale into our up dog, left, right, down dog, and again, the number of reps you're doing here just depends on how stiff you are and how much of this you need. The next drill is going to be the frog. Now, if your knees bother you and it's difficult for you to put pressure on a hard surface with your knees, I recommend lots of padding. I have a fairly thick yoga mat here, but some of us might actually need a little more padding than this. This will do okay for now, but if I was really practicing this as a part of my warm-up, I would get a thicker mat than what's on here. What we're going to do is we are going to first of all, we want to get our knees as far apart as we can. And I'm going to back up here a little bit because I'm afraid I'm out of the camera. So we have,
either at or close to a 90-degree bend in the knee. We're going to lower down to our forearms. And the first task is really just try to get your knees apart. And we're going to inhale as we bring our body forward and exhale as we try to push our butt down to our heels. So this is a perpetual movement, so you don't want to go too fast and you don't want to go too slow. You just want to work with your breath. Inhale as you come forward, exhale as you push back. This is very, very, very tight for some people. And this is one of those drills I learned many years ago from Steve Maxwell. And he used to always say, if this sucks, you probably need it. There are some other variations of the frog sequence that your instructors will be teaching you as the month goes by. But for now, we'll just keep it simple and do the plain frog drill. The last one that we're going to work on here is what they call tug-of-war squats. Now, in an effort to be able to make this visible on the video, I am not going to I don't have anything here to hold on to. So you can use either a jungle gym, you can hold on to a squat rack, or you can partner up with a partner to do this one. But basically what you want to do is we're going to stand up here. We're going to drop into a deep squat. Now, for some of you, in order to get into this very deep squat, you're going to need to hold on to something. I am fortunate enough to where I don't need to do that, so I'm just going to demonstrate. So I'm going to pretend like I'm holding on to something. And what I'm trying to do, if I was actually holding on to something, I could get my shins even more vertical than I already have them. So we're going to play tug-of-war with ourselves a little bit. So we're going to inhale, get a little tension through the glutes, and then just relax into it. So I'm going to try and lift my toes up off the ground. I don't know if the camera can catch that, but I'm just prying up and down. Squeeze and relax. Squeeze and relax. I'm also going to do a little ankle mobility here where I'm pushing my knees out over my toes. Sometimes if you're doing this with a partner, so if you're doing it with a partner, you and your partner would be holding hands, and you can kind of do that little push-pull with your partner. Just make sure that when you're doing that, when you're doing your knee mobility, you don't want to twist. That's bad for your knee. You want to keep your knees right over your middle toes and just go straight out over your two middle toes on both sides when you're moving back and forth with your partner. And when you're ready, we're going to take a little bit of air into the abdomen and rise up out of that squat. And you can do this for just a couple of repetitions. So you'll come down, try to sink into that position, do your breath work, squeeze your glutes, relax. Every time you relax, you're trying to get just a little deeper into that squat. A little tug-of-war, a little bit of air, and come back out of that squat. So guys, that is our mobility warm-up. So without me talking through it, you should be able, like I said, to be able to get through it fairly quickly. Give yourself a handful of repetitions for all of them, and spend a little bit of extra time on some of the stuff on you that's tight. If we see you at the CERT, we're very much looking forward to hosting you here in Tucson. And for everyone else who watches this video in our classes and beyond, have a very, very happy spring, and we'll see y'all again soon.